The locks on my bedroom door had been changed when I came home from work on Tuesday evening. I stood in the hallway of my colonial-style house in the suburbs of Chicago, staring at the unfamiliar deadbolt that had replaced my original lock. "Natalie," I called out. "Why is my bedroom locked?" My younger sister appeared from the kitchen, phone in hand, looking irritated. "Oh good, you're here. We need to talk." "About why my bedroom is locked?" "About your living situation," she said, crossing her arms. "I've decided to rent out the spare bedrooms on Airbnb. Your room has the best natural light and the ensuite bathroom. I've already got bookings starting this weekend. You need to move your stuff out by Thursday." I stared at her. "My bedroom. In my house." "Our house," she corrected sharply. "Mom and Dad left it to both of us. You don't get to hoard all the space while I'm struggling financially." I set down my work bag slowly. "Natalie, what are you talking about?" "I'm talking about being fair," she said. "You've been living here for 3 years acting like you own the place. Meanwhile, my marketing agency is barely breaking even, and I'm drowning in student loans. I have every right to this house and I'm exercising that right. By locking me out of my bedroom and listing it on Airbnb. By monetizing our shared asset," she said as if she'd rehearsed the phrase. "I've already got 5 bookings this month. At $150 a night, that's $22,500 annually just from your room. Plus, I'm converting the other spare bedroom too. You can move into the basement." "The basement," I repeated. "It's perfectly nice down there. A little dark, but you're barely home anyway with your consulting job. You travel like half the month. Why should you get the master suite when you're not even here?" I looked at my sister, who'd moved in 6 months ago after her apartment lease ended. She'd called me crying about rent prices, about her struggling business, about how alone she felt after her breakup. I'd offered her the spare bedroom temporarily, expecting her to stay a few weeks while she figured things out. That was 6 months ago. She'd paid rent exactly twice. "Where's the rental agreement?" I asked calmly. "What rental agreement?" "The agreement stating you can rent out rooms in this house." Natalie's eyes flashed with annoyance. "I don't need an agreement. This is my house too. Mom and Dad left it to both of us when they died. I've just been too nice to assert my rights until now." "Mom and Dad," I said slowly, "died 4 years ago." "Exactly. And for 4 years, you've been hogging this entire house like you're the only heir. That ends now." I walked past her to my bedroom door and tried the handle. "Locked tight. Do you have my key?" "No. That's my rental unit now. Your stuff is in the basement. I moved it yesterday." "You went through my things." "I packed your belongings carefully," she said defensively. "Nothing's damaged. You're being dramatic about this. It's just a bedroom." I pulled out my phone and opened my security camera app. I'd installed cameras throughout the house 2 years ago after a break-in scare in the neighborhood. I pulled up yesterday's footage and watched Natalie letting herself into my room, going through my closet, packing my clothes into boxes and carrying them downstairs. Then I watched her change the lock. "You went through my private belongings without permission," I said, showing her the footage. She barely glanced at it. "It's my house. I can go where I want. Now, are you going to move to the basement peacefully, or do I need to get the police involved for trespassing?" "Trespassing," I said. "In my own house." "Our house," she snapped. "Stop saying my house. You don't own this place. We inherited it together. Half is mine, which means I get to make decisions too. And I've decided we need rental income more than we need you taking up prime real estate." I took a breath. "Natalie, where did you get the idea that we both inherited this house?" "From Mom and Dad's will. They left everything to both of us. I remember sitting in the lawyer's office after the funeral. Do you remember what the lawyer said? That we inherited everything 50-50. The house, the savings, all of it." "The savings, yes," I said. "The house, no." She laughed. "Nice try. I'm not stupid, Claire. I know how inheritance works." "Then you know," I said carefully, "that property inheritance depends on how the deed is titled, not just what the will says. The will said everything goes to both of us." "The liquid assets went to both of us," I corrected. "The house went to me." "That's not true," she said, but her voice held a hint of uncertainty. "Mom and Dad bought this house 20 years ago," I explained. "When Dad got sick 7 years ago, They added my name to the deed because I was handling their finances and medical decisions. When they updated their will 4 years ago, right before Mom died, they left the house specifically to me because my name was already on the deed. The savings and other assets were split between us. You received $175,000. I received the house. Natalie's face had gone red. You're lying. I would have known. You didn't attend the full estate meeting, I reminded her gently. You left after the first hour because you said it was too depressing. The lawyer covered the property details in the second hour. That's not, I would have been told. You were told, I said. I emailed you the full estate breakdown. You replied, K, and never asked follow-up questions. She grabbed my phone and scrolled through the security footage again as if looking for evidence I was wrong. This doesn't prove anything. You could have faked this. I have the title deed in my safe, I said. I have the property tax records in my name. I have the mortgage payoff documents showing I paid the final $80,000 that was remaining on the loan. I have 3 years of homeowner's insurance in my name only. I have utility bills, maintenance records, and renovation permits all in my name. But Mom and Dad wanted you to have financial security through the inheritance money, I said. And they wanted me to have the house I'd been helping them maintain for years. They made their wishes very clear. Natalie's hands were shaking. You let me believe we shared this house. You never asked, I said. You assumed. When you asked to move in temporarily 6 months ago, I said yes because you're my sister and you needed help. I never claimed we co-owned the property because we don't. You tricked me. I gave you a place to live, I corrected. Rent-free for 6 months. You were supposed to stay a few weeks. You stayed half a year, paid rent twice, and have now decided to lock me out of my own bedroom and convert my house into an Airbnb without my permission. She scrolled frantically through her phone. I've already got bookings. 5 people have paid deposits. This is my income for the next 2 months. Then you'll need to refund them, I said calmly. I spent that money. I bought new furniture for the room, professional photos, upgraded the linens. I invested $3,000 into making that room rental ready. You spent $3,000 modifying my bedroom without my permission. Our bedroom, she shouted. This is our house. No, I said firmly. It's not. She stared at me, breathing hard. Then she said, fine. I'll buy you out. I'll get a mortgage for half the value and buy your share. The house is worth what, $600,000? I'll pay you $300,000 and then it's legally mine. The house is worth $680,000, I said. I had it appraised last year. But you can't buy me out of property I solely own. You can't throw me out. I have rights. I've been living here for 6 months. As my guest, I said. Not as a tenant with a lease, not as a co-owner, not as anyone with legal claim to this property. Natalie's expression shifted from anger to something calculating. I'll sue you. I'll tell a judge that Mom and Dad intended for both of us to have the house. I'll say you manipulated them when they were sick. I'll fight this. You could try, I acknowledged. It would be expensive and you'd lose. But you could try. I'm not leaving, she declared. You can't make me. And I'm not refunding those Airbnb bookings. My first guest arrives Friday. I pulled out my phone and called my attorney, Elizabeth Warren, who'd handled my parents' estate and had remained my legal counsel since. Elizabeth, I need you to prepare eviction paperwork for my sister. She's refusing to vacate, she's changed locks on my bedroom, and she's attempting to convert my home into an illegal Airbnb operation without proper permits or my consent. I'll have the papers ready tomorrow morning, Elizabeth said. Do you need police escort? Not yet, I said, looking at Natalie's shocked face. But possibly soon. After I hung up, Natalie whispered, You wouldn't. You changed the locks on my bedroom, I said. You went through my personal belongings. You're planning to let strangers stay in my house without my permission. You've ignored 6 months of gentle requests to find your own place. Yes, I would. The next morning, I worked from my office downtown instead of my home office. At noon, Elizabeth called. Your sister's lawyer just contacted me, she said. Apparently Natalie hired an attorney this morning. He's claiming she has an ownership stake in your property based on family inheritance. And you told him? I emailed him the title deed, the estate settlement documents, the property tax records, and the mortgage payoff statement in your name. He said he'd get back to me. He sounded significantly less confident after reviewing the documents. Good. There's something else, Elizabeth said. Your sister apparently filed for a restraining order against you, claiming you're harassing her and trying to illegally evict her from her home. The hearing is Thursday morning. Thursday, I repeated. The day my supposed 24 hours to move out expires. I suspect she's trying to establish residency rights and buy time. But she's going to be disappointed. Judge Matthews is hearing the case and he's exceptionally unimpressed by fraudulent property claims. Thursday morning, I dressed in my best consulting suit and drove to the courthouse. Natalie was already there with her attorney, a young man who looked fresh out of law school and deeply uncomfortable. Judge Matthews, a silver-haired man in his 60s, reviewed the paperwork with careful attention. Ms. Natalie Morrison, you're seeking a restraining order against your sister Claire Morrison, claiming she's attempting to illegally evict you from jointly owned property. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, Natalie said. My sister is trying to throw me out of the house my parents left to both of us. She's being vindictive, Anne. I'll hear from Miss Claire Morrison now, Judge Matthews interrupted. Ms. Morrison, you're represented by Elizabeth Warren. Ms. Warren. Elizabeth stood and handed the judge a folder. Your Honor, the property in question is solely owned by my client, as documented in the title deed, property tax records and mortgage payoff statements included in this filing. Ms. Natalie Morrison was permitted to stay as a guest 6 months ago and has overstayed without paying agreed-upon rent. She has no legal claim to the property. Judge Matthews examined the documents carefully. This title deed shows only Claire Morrison as owner. Ms. Natalie Morrison, do you have documentation supporting your claim of co-ownership? Natalie's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client believes the property was left to both sisters in their parents' will. Belief isn't documentation, Judge Matthews said dryly. Do you have the will? We're obtaining it, Your Honor. I have it here, Elizabeth said, handing over another document. The will clearly states that the house at 1247 Oakwood Avenue goes solely to Claire Morrison. Liquid assets were divided equally between both daughters. The estate was settled 4 years ago without contest. Judge Matthews read the will, then looked at Natalie. Ms. Morrison, were you aware of these terms when the estate was settled? I thought it was 50-50 on everything, Natalie stammered. But you signed the estate settlement documents, Judge Matthews said, pulling out another paper. Your signature is right here, acknowledging receipt of $175,000 in liquid assets and confirming you had no claim to the real property. Natalie went pale. I didn't read it carefully. I was grieving. That's unfortunate, Judge Matthews said, but not grounds for a restraining order or for claiming property rights 4 years later. Ms. Warren, you've filed a counter motion. Yes, Your Honor. We're seeking immediate eviction of Natalie Morrison from the property, return of all keys and access codes, reimbursement for unauthorized modifications to the property, and a cease and desist order preventing her from operating an illegal short-term rental business from my client's home. Illegal rental business? Judge Matthews looked at Natalie. I listed some rooms on Airbnb, Natalie admitted. But it's my house too. It demonstrably is not, Judge Matthews interrupted. Ms. Morrison, I'm denying your restraining order request. Furthermore, I'm granting Ms. Claire Morrison's eviction request. You have 72 hours to vacate the property. If you fail to do so, the sheriff will remove you and your belongings. But I have nowhere to go. Natalie protested. You've had 6 months to find alternative housing, Judge Matthews said. You chose to spend that time trying to illegally monetize property you don't own instead. Court is adjourned. Natalie's lawyer approached Elizabeth after court. My client didn't understand the situation. Is there any way to negotiate a longer move-out period? 72 hours is generous, Elizabeth said. And Miss Claire Morrison wants all Airbnb bookings cancelled immediately. If any guests show up at her property, she'll call the police. That evening I changed all the locks on my house, something I should have done months ago. I deactivated Natalie's access code for the garage. I called Airbnb and reported the fraudulent listings. All 5 bookings were cancelled, and Natalie's account was suspended for operating without property owner permission. My bedroom had been transformed. Natalie had painted the walls, bought new furniture, installed different light fixtures, and replaced my custom window treatments. The modifications would cost thousands to reverse. I documented everything with photos and sent them to Elizabeth for the reimbursement lawsuit. Natalie moved out on Saturday, the last day of her 72-hour window. She left without speaking to me, loading boxes into a moving van while I watched from the living room window. She sent one text later that evening, "I hope you're happy. You chose a house over your sister." I replied, "You chose entitlement over respect. There's a difference." Over the following weeks, I learned that Natalie had borrowed money from friends to fund her Airbnb venture, confidently promising returns from her rental property. When the bookings were canceled, she couldn't repay them. Her marketing agency lost clients when word spread about the legal battle. Her ex-boyfriend refused to let her stay with him, citing drama. She moved in with a cousin 2 hours away. She blocked me on all social media. Family members called to ask what had happened. I sent them the court documents and let them draw their own conclusions. My mother's sister, Aunt Jean, called me directly. "Your mother would be heartbroken seeing you two like this." "Mom left me the house specifically," I said. "She knew what she was doing. She knew Natalie would struggle with boundaries and financial responsibility. She gave her cash and gave me property, hoping we'd both be okay. Your mother hoped you'd take care of each other." "I tried," I said. "I gave Natalie 6 months rent-free. She repaid me by trying to steal my house and convert it into a business without my permission. At some point, taking care of someone means letting them face consequences." Aunt Jean sighed. "You're right. I just wish it hadn't come to this." "So do I." 3 months later, I hired contractors to restore my bedroom and repair the unauthorized modifications. The final bill was $8,400. My lawyer sent it to Natalie's attorney. She never paid. I've accepted I probably won't see that money. But I have my house back, my privacy restored, and my boundaries firmly established. The title deed sits in my safe along with all the court documents. Proof that sometimes family means standing firm, even when standing firm means standing alone. Natalie claimed our house was hers. The judge read my title deed and proved otherwise. Her keys got deactivated Thursday, right on schedule. And my house remained exactly what it had always been. Mine.